I'm Laura Dryland. I chair the Fairview Park Green Team, and a couple of my co-chairs are here, Doreen Pavajak and Ann Ross, and a couple of our other Green Team members. We have Libby and Louise and Mary Kay. Am I missing anybody? So we started this in June, actually was our first meeting, because there's so many important things. There's so much important information, so much important things to take care of, to make our community more sustainable. And so we decided to have the speaker series to get the information out to people. The first one, of course, is our recycling. One of our members came up with a really cool name, Recycling to Curb and Beyond, because some of it's about curbside, and then you'll see two of our speakers are talking about other kinds of recycling. And so today we are lucky to have with us, our first speaker is going to be Jamie Arnold. He's a co-owner of Repeat Glass. And then we have Paul Osad, he's co-owner of Recycle It. And then Karen Miller from Solid Waste was supposed to be here, but she had an injury. And so her boss, the director, wait, I forget your whole name. I'm so sorry. It's not on here.
Beth Biggins Raymer.
Has generously offered to take her place. So we're here for an hour and a half. The first two speakers are going to do about 20 minutes each. And then the bulk is going to be about curbside, because that's what we all are involved in doing. A couple of housekeeping things. The restrooms are down the hall and around the little tiny hallway right there, if you need them. There are beverages and little snacks back there. And then this, I just want to print.
No, I'm just doing the Zoom. So
information.
you need a PowerPoint to run?
So if you want to take a picture of it with your phone so that you have our email, see what our meetings are, I'm just going to pass it around. If you want to take a picture,
You wanted to run
pass it around.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find creative ways not to make as much waste. We thought, oh, that would be a good way to start. There's a sign, and you can put your email if you want us to add you to our email list. Put out meeting information, but I also put out we also share other, interesting stories and information, other things going around town that you might want to attend. Can you just show me, raise the hands, who's from Fairview? Okay, and then we have some people from West Park, right? Okay, and anybody from someplace other than
Rocky River.
Rocky River? Oh, I'm so glad you came, thank you. Yeah, we tried to get the information out there. What we're trying to do is not have these people go and talk to 4 or 5 people at a time. So we are also recording this on a test Zoom. We thought about offering it hybrid, but we wanted to test it out to see if it works well, if people can hear it. And we are recording it so that we can kind of see how it looks, so we can offer it hybrid next time. That way, we can link it on our Facebook page. We can link it on our channel to get more information out there. Like there'll be able to see people coming and talking to 5 people in this community and 6 people in that community. So we're trying to broaden how far we can get the information. Okay, I think I've talked enough. And so I'm going to turn it over first to Jamie from Repeat Glass.
Hello, my name is Jamie Arnold. I own Repeat Glass. Repeat Glass is a glass recycling pickup service serving East Ohio. We launched on Earth Day last year, so coming up on a year now. Our main focus really is serving commercial businesses, and then we also have community drop sites in the area. So the issue with glass recycling in Northeast Ohio is there's a couple problems. One, we are so used to commingling it, but when you commingle glass with other recyclable materials, you tend to have a higher contamination rate and a lower recovery rate as a result. And so what happens is, that glass material is less valuable. There's less options for, where it can go. And so, some haulers in the area may end up using it. It's beneficial use toward landfill. So it's going to the landfill, being used as, cover or road base, where, glass is 100% recyclable. It can be recycled endlessly. So for it to go to the landfill is not exactly ideal. There are better uses for it. So, the idea with repeat glass is to separate the material out from the beginning, so it never gets mixed with these other materials. And basically set up a stream that finds a better use for the recycled glass. So, when we launched a year ago, we were set up with Cap Glass, a processor out of Pennsylvania, and they would, we take all the glass. We had a bunker set up in Cuyahoga Heights. When it was full, they'd pick it up, take it to their plant, and that glass is then processed and then sent to Owens, Illinois to be made into new container glass. So what's really cool about that is, theoretically, like a beer bottle that was recycled could become a beer bottle again. So, it was truly a recyclable effort. And then we had some issues with our bunker there with the city of Cuyahoga Heights. So we did have to take down that bunker, but thankfully we got connected with another processor called Strategic Materials. They're one of the biggest glass recyclers in the world. And they got, they have plants all over, and they work with other companies, including Owens, Illinois. But now the glass we collect is actually being used to make fiberglass insulation with another company called Knauf. So we're very happy. We're finding alternative uses that are, diverting the glass from the landfill. And so, it's a clean stream. So, what I've been working on for the past year is, collecting the glass. So, my biggest job is, transporting it to our bunker and getting as much glass there as I possibly can. So we have currently 13 community drop sites. These are free for residents to use. So anyone that maybe they live in an apartment building and they don't have access to recycling, or maybe they do, have a curbside program, but they don't like, how the glass is commingled and they want to see a better use for it. So we have these drop sites, all over town, including Rocky River. And yeah, it's free for anyone to use. And on our website, if you're curious to find the closest one to you, you can go to our website and find the location there. We have, a map, you can click on it, it'll give you directions there. And then the other thing, because that's a free program, we need to make money. So we have our commercial program, and that's kind of really what I've been building out as well. So, businesses that want to recycle their glass properly, we work with. And it started off slow, but thankfully it's been picking up lately. We just started working with Oberlin College, the airport, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and some other, kind of other bars and restaurants. Really, what's cool is, we can work with any size business as long as they're interested in participating and keeping a clean stream of glass. So we're developing what's called the Clean Glass Network. So if you go to our website again, you could see the businesses that are participating and offering support.
Oh, so you could potentially take your glass to one of those businesses? Or do they just?
The businesses that's for their private use,
Okay.
because they're paying for it, and they pay, based on how many, we use these 64-gallon rolling carts. So they basically pay by how many carts they have and how often we come and pick it up. So they wouldn't want other people just dumping in because then they're going to be paying. But that's one, we have those community drop sites. So, as long as people live near one, that it shouldn't be too big of a problem.
What's the different kind of glass that you take that curbside does not take?
It's pretty similar. So it's mostly container glass. So, beer bottle, it's mostly alcohol. Beer bottles, liquor bottles, wine bottles. We also can take like candle jars, and the wax can stay in there. You don't have to take out the wax. Everything else you want to at least empty. You don't have to rinse. You don't have to take off labels. Usually lids and caps are okay because, at the processing plant, one of the first things all that goes through is like a magnet, and pull that stuff off and they can scrap it and make money off of that. So it's one of the easier items to separate. And then labels and that sort of thing burn off in the process as well. And then, I mean, those are the main things. I try not to expand the list too much because then it opens it up more to contamination. But, you know, things we can't take, like, you know, we can't do mirrors, light bulbs, ceramic glass, like porcelain stuff. That's a common one we can't take. And then bags and boxes. So people like to bag their glass and toss it in their carts, and that's more problematic. So we want people that empty it all in there, keep it loose.
Would you consider putting a mini drop off in Fairview if we had enough interest in it?
Yeah, I would definitely consider it. So basically, I kind of have two ways of going about that now. If I can have enough, if I can have businesses in the area that are, you know, commercial businesses paying for our service, you know, for their use, I can easily, you know, I'd gladly work with you and set up a free drop site. Well, when I'm like kind of working on the edge of my boundary of my service area, that's, you know, I can also, like, for instance, I'm working with Highland Heights, and the city is paying for their drop off, but it's still free to the residents, but the city's sponsoring the program.
What's that cost?
So, well, we just set them up and they went on the very lowest tier you could do, which is once a month pick up with one cart, which is $30.
Oh, that's
per month.
not bad. Huh?
Yeah. So for something, you know, I'd probably, if Fairview Park wanted to do, I'd probably do like an every other week's type of schedule to start, and we just set up parts to, it's a little bit of playing it by ear, you know, to see how much interest there is and then adjust it from there. But yeah, it'd probably be under $100 per month with something like that. It really just depends on how strong of a demand there is. But being that, who do y'all have for curbside? Is it Republic? Okay. So Republic does take glass in their curbside program. So chances are it wouldn't be too overwhelming. Most people are still going to use that for the glass recycling.
The glass that you collect, though, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the glass that Republic collects just gets ground up and used for other purposes, but the glass you collect actually can turn into new glass.
Well, so I was working with Owens, Illinois, and they were making, Cap Glass in Owens, Illinois, and they were using it to make new container glass. But more recently, I started working with Strategic Materials, and they do work with Owens, Illinois, but their client that actually gets the glass I'm collecting is Knauf insulation. So it's being used for fiberglass insulation, you know, walls and new builds. But as far as, and Beth might be able to speak to this more than me, but Republic is known for doing the beneficial use when it comes to glass. So they're the ones sending it to the landfill as cover or road base. So, and I don't believe that's technically recycling according to Ohio EPA standards. That's why they use beneficial use. Yeah, so they can't say recycling, they say beneficial use.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that meant a good thing. So it's,
Well, it's a reduction activity. You know how the EPA is, they're wonderful with definitions, but it doesn't fit the definition of recycle, which is taking a product and then making it into another product. So
It's better than nothing, but it's not the best.
it's a substitute for aggregate.
A question for you. So, you know, you have a lot of bars that generate glass. How do you make it efficient for them to divert that from going into their rub gear and their waste management or their? How do you make that effective, cost effective for them before that?
Well, I can't really look, you know, it kind of just depends on their own setup currently. You know, obviously, they might not have, some of the bars and restaurants I work with don't have any other recycling going on. So chances are it's not going to be more cost effective to go with me. Chances are it's going to cost them more. But one thing they consider is the fact that they're not generating more waste. You know, the glass that was once going into their dumpster is now going is now separated out into the carts we provide them. So that means potentially that they could either, reduce the amount of pickups for their dumpster or reduce the size of their dumpster. And so they might be able to save some costs on that end. It's really if they're
If they wanted
active
to-
on it, yeah, if they're thinking about it.
We do the same thing with cardboards. I mean, it's more costly. You have to want to divert.
Yeah, it definitely takes, owners that are, kind of like-minded and, progressive thinking in that regard. It's more about doing the right thing for the environment more than just looking at the
Watching the
bottom
bottom.
line.
Jamie said, you want to think of waste and, what you generate, which is a combination of waste and recycling is high. And so if we cut a piece of that pie out for recycler, whether it's glass or cardboard, you need to kind of right size your garbage collection. So hopefully it's a cost neutral, so you may not save money, but at the bottom, again, when you get to the bottom line, hopefully it's a cost neutral. And you've right sized, like Jamie said, either the size of your garbage dumpster, or you downsized it or downsized the frequency of collection in order to offset that. The cost for something.
If a business is actively recycling, like a bar, they should be advertising it. They should put that on their window or their door, so they like recycle or.
So, yeah, actually, I think I do. So this is one thing we provide our bars and restaurants we work with, and they do stick it on their window or door and or behind the bar or wherever. Some don't, some just throw it away, but
What does it say?
it's a certified or certification statement that they're part of the Clean Glass Network. And then that's something we also advertise on our social media and website.
Do you think if you made that bigger, they would still put it on?
People love
Because after a few years,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take up their whole window. They might have other stickers.
Said they're pick up in Rock River.
We do have a drop site in Rocky River. It's at that church on Hilliard. Yeah,
Oh, the West Shore.
yeah. The West Shore Unitarian, yeah, it's in the back, kind of by their daycare area, just right in the trash area.
Okay.
And then they also have another part inside, so if you go to that church, you can also take it into the building.
And then when you bring your glass, you can bring your cardboard, because they have 3 of the River Valley cardboard things. there.
Yeah, that's at the
So-
other end of the lot.
So,
Yeah, we started off there, but it was too much out in the open.
Yeah.
So we should take our glass there to be more recycled than just to this dumpster out here.
What do you have out there? Is that Rumpke or?
I'm not quite sure what it
Yeah,
is.
Well,
We just,
No, yeah,
yeah,
that-
sort it, you got, if you would take it, you got sort because.
Yeah.
Cardboard cans and other stuff maybe over here and there.
yeah, so, like I said before, that sounds like that's commingled, so you're gonna have, it's. Not that it's necessarily going in the wrong place, it's just harder recovery rate on stuff like that when it's mixed with other materials.
So what do they do with them? Do they sort it out and give it to you or they just? put it back on
No,
the
I don't work for the other haulers. So, but yeah, they do their best to sort it out. And depending on the hauler, they'll have different options for where they send it ultimately. So, Republic has the beneficial use of the landfills. I have worked with Waste Management before, taking my glass to their place in Akron at their MRF, and they do work with CAP, but if you see, you see the glass that's going in CAP, their processing plant, it's not, you wouldn't even know it's glass.
So what got you interested in this? Like, why did you think there'd be a worthwhile business?
Well, I've actually been doing this for about 8 years now. I started off doing it in Kansas City. So in Kansas City, glass was not part of the curbside program. So most of my business was curbside. So it was just a privatized curbside business. There's another company called Ripple Glass, they're the processor
No,
out
you're
there,
fine.
and actually recently purchased by Strategic Materials, so I work with now. But they were started by a guy that owned Boulevard Brewing Company, which is basically it's kind of like Rick's Brewing Company, but in Kansas City. So they were, generating a lot of glass products in the area, and they wanted to, be part of this solution. So they set up all these drop sites around town. And so curbside was still kind of a gap with the curbside program. So I got involved with that to kind of make it glass recycling a little more convenient for people. And I sold that company a couple of years ago so I could move back home to the Cleveland area.
Well, we're glad you did.
Out of curiosity, do recycling companies usually isolate? Like are there companies that do glass and tires and all that stuff with one, or they usually just do stick to one recyclable?
When it comes to glass recycling companies, they don't typically branch out. I've seen some do cans and other metals just because that's, I guess, easier to sort, or the processors don't mind it because there's value there because it's easy to sort. But I haven't really seen, there's companies like Rumpke, they're huge. They have their own, glass recycling plant down in Dayton. But, they're, as far as going from glass and branching out from there, I don't really see that. Have you?
I have a recycling company, we don't handle glass at all. Only because glass is a contaminant to just about any commodity, so if you mix glass with plastic or mix glass with paper, it becomes landfill cover. Right, so you need to have a company like this that handles only glass to effectively recycle.
What is landfill cover?
Landfills are required under Ohio law and actually all nationally. They have to adhere to a thing called RCRA, Resource Recovery Act, and which went into effect in 1970, and it requires that wherever you are dumping for that day, at the end of that day, you have to cover that area. And some facilities will use large tarps, some will use dirt and cover it up, and it's for vector or so the bird, seagulls or rats don't get to it. So it's a requirement for health concerns. So every landfill does.
So better than a tarp, but not ideal. The tarp's plastic.
I don't know what the best solutions are.
I know. No. Any last questions?
I noticed you had a glass ambassador program. Could you speak to us a little bit about that?
So the Glass Ambassador program, it's something I did when I was in Kansas City, and the idea there was to help expand my curbside service area. And it worked well, seeing if someone was in a neighborhood that we did not yet serve, they basically signed up to be an ambassador, and they posted on their next door neighborhood Facebook group and try to get as many pre-registrations before there was enough for us to justify expanding our service that way. And so with repeat, it's still kind of like a hazy idea. I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest, but my hopes is that it leads to more businesses signing up. So maybe it could be someone that works at a restaurant, they see that, want to be ambassador and say, hey, we can get our restaurant on board. Or maybe it's someone that lives in an apartment building and say, hey, I can talk to our landlord or property manager and see if we can get it for our whole building, that sort of thing. So if someone signs up, I don't have a whole lot of direction. I'm more hoping they go, hey, I have an idea. And then we can, talk and try to get something going.
And then what's your website again?
Repeatglass.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you so very much for your
Do you
time.
only do Cuyahoga County or also Lorraine?
Yeah, I go out to Oberlin every other week, so we have Oberlin College. That we just started picking up more last week, and then Kendall at Oberlin Senior Living Facility. And then on, I guess I think it might still be Cuyahoga County, might be one county over with like towards Sugar and Falls area going east. Yeah, Geauga. Yeah, that might be Geauga. They're right on the edge.
Any last questions?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So our next speaker is Paul from Recycle It in Brook Park, right?
Right. Good evening. I just want to say thank you to Jamie for recycling glass, because glass is one of the biggest things entering our landfills that takes 7,000 years to decompose. So I wish people would get more involved in the glass recycling program that he offers, because it's one thing we haven't offered. Just give you a little background. I've been doing recycling for 34 years. I'm part owner in a company called Recycle It in Brook Park. We recycle about 15,000 tons of paper a month, which makes us a fairly major player in the recycling business. But we only recycle about 300 tons of plastic a month, because we only do industrial plastics. We don't do curbside. We leave it to Rumpke and Waste Management and Republic to do that, because they've set up $2 million systems to try to divert this stuff. But in our business, we recycle a lot of major cardboard generators like the Marks and the Save-A-Lots, and we service from Ohio all the way down to Florida. We have 2 plants in Georgia, 1 plant in Brook Park, probably 30 semis, probably 400 trailers. 1 out of every 10 trailers you see on the highway are probably full of paper going to a paper mill. What I wanted to do is tell you a little bit about what happens to the paper that you recycle. Even if it's on the curb, we do buy a lot of paper from some of the waste generators. But every time you recycle cardboard, it turns into new cardboard. Goes to many different mills across the country, even overseas, it turns into new cardboard. When you recycle office paper, mixed paper, magazines, it turns into products like toilet paper. Turns into products like paper plates, napkins. So it's really, really easy to recycle that. Cardboard and paper are the easiest things to recycle. You can take it to your neighborhood schoolyard. You could take it over to Brook Park to our facility. It's the easiest thing to recycle. And across the country, Americans recycle about 70% of all paper generated. That's at home and in your business.
That's fairly.
Brown means that it probably was a mixed paper grade. So what's nice about paper is if I pick up 1,000 tons of paper and it's all mixed with newspaper, printer's paper, junk mail, I can turn it into something like this. Unfortunately, with plastic, if you mix it all together, it becomes landfill. So that's why it's so important, especially on the curb, and I'm sure Beth will tell you, that it's so important to keep materials separated when you send it out, or clean. Food and glass are some of the biggest contaminants to your recycle can. 25% of everything that goes into your curbside recycle can immediately can be sent to the dump, because 25% of it is food waste. 25% of it is someone that forgot to rinse out their spaghetti container. As soon as that container is dumped into a garbage truck, that material is sent to the landfill, because they don't have the capacity or the capability to do that in most cases. Some places like Waste Management and Republic and Rumpke down in Columbus, they built $2 million, $3 million facilities to separate that. But it's still up to each and every one of us and everybody in our community to keep that material clean. Can't throw hoses in, we can't throw bowling balls in, we can't throw typewriters in, and we've seen it all. You know, I mean, who would throw a bowling ball in a recycling bin? Can you imagine that going through a shredder? But, I brought some stuff here because this is sort of, these pens are made out of jeans. This is made out of newspaper. I mean, newspaper is the easiest thing to recycle. And newspaper can turn into so many different things. It can turn into a cereal box. It can turn into insulation in your attic. It can turn into new newspapers. It can actually turn into different types of materials that are like corrugated. So I'm going to jump over to the plastics. The plastics, a PET bottle can turn into so many different things. You can make shoes out of PET bottles. You can make shoelaces out of PET bottles. You can make these containers, right? I mean, these travel bags into from PET bottles. Shoelaces, PET bottles. We just got to keep it clean and separated. That's all. And they've made new avenues to make things easier for us to do. We just got to keep it clean.
Well, there's so much plastic. What do you do with it? There's so much of it.
Well, and I think Beth can get into this. Mixed plastics now can be used as fuel. They're trying to generate that for fuel. Unfortunately, that's why we didn't get into the curbside program. It's just too much. It would cost, we spend $1 million building balers just to pack the material for our mills to accept. To build another $2 million facility, you would have to have 100,000 square foot plant that could, with robots and all. They've got systems now that actually can read, believe it or not, they can read the minds of plastic and tell them where to go. It's crazy, but they're so expensive. But again, it comes down to us not being lazy as a community, as an individual. I work with a lot of companies overseas, like in Europe. They care about what goes on. It's not a chore for them to recycle. They want to recycle. Our landfill space is running out, and it's very costly to landfill material. And believe it or not, it's going to get more costly because we'll run out of landfill space. So as someone that recycles only really sort of like the easy stuff, like the cardboard and the paper and some of the industrial plastics, we rely on people like Jamie to recycle the hard stuff. We rely on people like Beth who can direct people to the right sources. So all I'm saying is, it's easy to recycle paper, cardboard, and newspaper. You should be doing that every single day. When it comes down to the plastics, educate yourselves, educate your neighbor, and let them know, hey, we can make a difference here today. Just learn to do what we need to do. Go and look at a Kimball container, and you can see that there's a bag of grass. Who would throw a bag of grass in a Kimball container? Because they don't want to, I don't want to get on my high horse, but it needs to be, we need to talk to our neighbors. We need to talk to our friends. We need to let them know, hey guys, listen, it's costly to get rid of this. Okay.
Unfortunately, I've been doing cardboard for years, all my life. I have seen a dialysis plastic tubing that used for dialysis in cardboard dumpsters, and it was over 50 bags of this stuff.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I knew where to take it. I just took it right back to them because I know where it came from.
You're exactly right.
I did.
You're exactly, and that's exactly where it belongs.
I should, but they should have got rid of it, take it to a Stericycle. They burn it.
Because it's costly for them to do that. We ran a plant in Ashland, Ohio for about a year, and we collected curbside recycling. And that's where I came up with the bowling ball. And I can't even tell you the kind of things that were sent in a curbside recycling program that we had to get rid of. And sometimes we had to call somebody, like we were getting IV tubing. We knew where it was coming from. You can't send that to us. We would call them, they would come and get
They
it.
said it was coming from some type of.
It's about laziness and it's about
Yeah.
people that need to be educated about what needs to be done with their material and set in a certain direction. I brought a couple, here's a couple other things. If you're going to the store, buy it in paper, not in styrofoam. Styrofoam's bad.
Styrofoam's horrible.
It's very bad, you know? When you go to, if you're having a party, buy paper plates and paper cups. When you go to work, use a mug. Take a water bottle. Take one of these bags with you when you go to the grocery store.
Right.
Let's try to save as much as we possibly can. I'm gonna ask someone a question. How many trees, if I recycle 1 ton of paper, how many trees do I save? Does anyone know? Because I'm gonna give you a t-shirt if you do. It's between 10 and 20. It's between 15 and 18. It's between 16 and 18. It's between
17. 17.
God. If I recycle 1 ton of paper, how many gallons of water do I save? And I'm gonna give you here between 6,000 and 8,000.
7,000.
7,000.
Thanks for it.
If you want to do another question, I donate prize.
Okay, one more. I recycle 1 ton of paper, how many gallons of fuel do I save? That's between 4,100 and 4,300. Between 4,100 and 4,300.
42.
4,200, there you go. So, here's the thing, I love recycling. I've been doing it for my whole life. I've trained people with offices of 4 people. I've trained people with offices of 5,000 people. I've trained people at Amazon. I've trained people at Heinen's. I've trained people all over. And you know what? It's all about education. And talking to your neighbor and saying, hey, we need to do this. I love what I do. I'm getting old. I'm probably gonna have to pass the torch on pretty soon, but I'll never, ever not communicate to my neighbor about what needs to be done. Thank you for your time.
Any last question?
Well, everybody, I have a recycle bin, but I'm supposed to put all of these things in one recycle bin.
Right.
So, you're saying it has to be separated or whatever.
So when it goes into a public recycling bin, and Beth could probably talk a little bit more about that. There's Rumpke and Waste Management, Public and Kimball, they're all set up with machinery to separate that. If it comes to my facility, I want to say true recycling is pure separation, like, for glass. If you really want to recycle number 2 plastic or number 1 plastic, it needs to be separated. It used to be a long time ago, you used to get a bin for number 1, you get some number 2, you have your bin for newspaper, your bin for meth. They don't, people didn't do it. So they said, hey, we got to make this easy. So they said, all right, just throw everything together. We're going to put it through a machine and hope that it gets recycled. Now, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but I don't believe that those machines, even though they're $2 million or $5 million, they don't recycle everything. So that's why if you can find a place that recycles things separately, I do it. Okay, that's from yeah.
Oh, and go ahead.
There, I know a couple of lots, but they're just more like a dump. How do you get those cleaned up? There's a lot over there by Park Home Depot. And then there's just like a dump over there, so many plastic bags there, and cans and bottles and tires and stuff.
Is it a recycling plant?
No, it's just.
It's a dump.
Just like a dump, like almost like and waste concrete is there also. There's this one, looks like bad East Palestine there, and industry is, Home Depot is very, very little. And the other small industries do less than that. What do you do with a lot like that?
That's like
It's too
all-
much for pickers to be picking it up.
That's a cause on waste.
Yes.
You're right. That's a good question.
Call our office, we work with the group called Core Community Services.
Yeah, I've been working with them for the past couple of years. And it's just too much for them because it's briars and stuff and all, it's just.
Well, we'll have to find, one, we'll have to assess whether or not it's on, because we can only go on public property. And if it's on private property, we could reach out to, if it's like the city of Brook Park or, you know, whatever specific community. And we can see if the local law enforcement group will go investigation. So call our office and we'll try and figure out, you know, one, if it's on public or private property. and
It's just
then-
too much for a community group to do because it's briars. It's
Well,
sick.
if it's, our supervisors will go out, and take a look, and if they need to, they'll arrange like a drop of a dumpster and equipment to get it cleaned up, so. I guess before I launched into, I'm Beth Biggins-Raymer, the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District. And I'm not Karen, she's much cuter than I. And but she unfortunately took a tumble and broke her arm. And so I'm pinch hitting, but please feel free to call her anytime. We passed out some cards. This is just some information on what we do at the Solid Waste District. You know, and illegal dumping is one of the things you can contact us about. We have a pretty robust website, and you know, if you go to cuyahogarecycles.org, you can actually see, and we'll talk a little bit about it in the PowerPoint. You can actually go to your individual communities and click on your community. And we updated our website last year. We spent most of last year making it geosensitive. So you can click on your individual community, got all 59 listed there. So you can click on Cleveland and it'll take you and to Cleveland's listing of the materials they take. For example, Cleveland is serviced by Rumpke. So Rumpke takes slightly different material than, let's say, Kimball companies. And so that's why we did that, is we have 4 major haulers within Cuyahoga County. We have Rumpke and Kimball, Waste Management, and Republic Services. 3 of those have recycling facilities within driving distance in what we call our material, our MRF shed, or our material recovery facility, such like a watershed. And each of those MRFs, based on that hauler, they're an integrated company. They take slightly different materials. Or if you want to look at a specific material on our website, and I'll show you that page in a minute, you can click on the material and it'll tell you based on your location, just like on your phone, where the closest place is to drop off clothes, or if it's glass. And to follow up on Jamie's, that was a good segue, huh? If you're interested in a drop off, talk to your city service director. Mary Kay is a lovely lady. And, you know, she might be, you know, sweet talked into maybe thinking about, you know, placing a glass bin. So that was a shameless. And then to Paul's point, we pass these cards out. The most important thing that you can do with any recyclable is make sure it's empty, clean, and dry. Let's repeat again. Empty, clean, and dry. That should be your mantra. And that really is true, right? You know, Jamie mentioned that he doesn't want his glass bag. It's all deep, clean, and dry, and then the last one's loose. So now I'll segue into this PowerPoint. As I mentioned, we're with the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District. We're this odd kind of governmental entity. We're not county, but we have kind of purview over all 59 communities within Cuyahoga County. you want to think about us is, we're here to help. We're here to help businesses, residences. Those businesses could be commercial businesses or industrial businesses. And we're here to help all of those entities reduce, reuse, and recycle within Cuyahoga County. And yes, I can't use this line very often, but let's talk trash. We, within Cuyahoga County, we actually produce about 2.3 million, that's with an M, tons of garbage annually. And this slide will show you kind of how it's broken down. About 50-50, not quite a 50-50 split between what is either composted and recycled and then that which goes to a landfill. You know, we in the county recycle about 32% of all of that 2.3 million tons that we generate. And about 6% goes to some sort of composting activity. Cuyahoga County is a lot like New York City. We export all of our garbage. That is, we do not have an active solid waste, municipal solid waste landfill within our county any longer. Believe it or not, at one point, every city had a little dump. Go back far enough to remember that. But as in most places, you know, things have regionalized, and we basically send all of our garbage out Cuyahoga County. It goes to 14 different landfills throughout the state of Ohio. And you can see here some of the places it travels. It goes as far south as Athens. The majority of our garbage does go to Lorain County, which is owned by Republic Services. Yes, on the screen. I'm circling it, but it's a Lorain County there. Followed then by a good portion of it goes to Stark County. So, you know, as you are purchasing things, not only do you want to be thoughtful about carrying that reusable bag or thinking about what we purchased, because that not only has an impact on, you know, what you can recycle, but it has an impact on what is being disposed of, and it impacts our neighbors within the state. So what should you do? You know, if you really do think about recycling and composting, you can pretty much, not quite half, but you know, about 40%. You can divert about 40% of the materials that you generate into either recycling or composting to minimize what you actually landfill. Talked a little bit about those MRFs, that material recovery facility. We're great with acronyms, by the way, in government. You know, we have an acronym for everything. And just so people don't confuse that with Smurfs. But anyways, so here on the map, you can see that the 3 facilities that are within close driving distance, we have Republic Services out Oberlin, we have Kimball in the Twinsburg area. Waste management, as Jamie mentioned, is in Akron currently. They are refurbishing their Oakwood material recovery facility. And as Paul mentioned, these are very expensive facilities. They have just invested, they hope to cut the ribbon on this facility on Earth Day, $30 billion for a recycling facility. So these are not cheap ventures. And then Rumpke that collects, they actually transport all of their recyclables to Columbus, where they are also building a brand new material recovery facility. I would say that's like upwards of 45,000. It's much more expensive than waste management. So we'll talk a bit about that. But that is our infrastructure here in Cuyahoga County. We wanted to show you, so when your curbside recyclable materials are collected, they get put into the back of a recycling truck, and then they are taken to that material recovery facility. They begin their journey on the floor. So this is where it is tipped, so emptied out the back of the truck. The bottom picture shows what is probably more of a commercial route. You can see all that beautiful brown gold there, that cardboard. And And then probably more of a residential route there at the top. It's got more paper. Just a plug for cardboard recycling, by the way. We are very lucky being in the Midwest. We have the greatest number of paper mills within like a 6-state area in the Midwest. So another good reason to be in the Midwest. That's just my plug. This picture. Oh, y'all can see what this is. It's a bowling ball. I'm trying not to totally laugh hysterically when I said that, but you would be absolutely surprised what people will put in their recycling bins. Now, this, to Paul's comment, this is, these recycling facilities are huge. They take in materials from, for example, Republic takes in materials from not only Fairview Park, but dozens of other communities in Northeast Ohio and businesses. And as Paul said, depending on how well your community recycles, how well they take care of those things to begin with, that try mantra, it will depend on what your contamination rate is. But this is some of the contaminants off the end of that recycling facility. And yeah, somebody put a bowling ball in recycle it. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've got a lawn chair, we've got the evil plastic bag, and a variety of hangers, so it is just simply amazing. When in doubt, throw it out or call us or go to our webpage. So the bowling ball one just cracks me up. Once the material has been put on the floor of the material recovery facility, it begins its journey by really going through a pre-sorting area. And I have some videos. So there's a large piece of machine, looks like a bucket truck. It comes and scoops the recyclables up, puts it on the conveyor belt, and it begins its journey into being separated into its component parts. This is an angle screen. This, is the incline up to where it begins to be sorted. It kind of fluffs things up, has some teeth underneath it, because there is some compaction in the back of the recycling truck. So this kind of gets it loose because, we want to be able to make sure there's something laying on top of something else. So we get these things sorted into their component parts. We're back over again. Where's Karen? Anyhow, so that, as I said, that kind of fluffs up the material so we can begin to get it loose so we can begin to sort out the component parts. This is a paper pre-sort. And what you'll see when I hit the go button is the people at the top of the screen are looking through, trying to pull out contaminants. They're trying to make that paper more homogenistic in nature. So I'm hitting the button. Well, it works in really interesting places. But you can see them at the top as they try to pull out, plastic bags or other materials that are not wanted in that paper stream. There we go. This and this piece of equipment, I'm going to try to explain to you. These are called optical sorters. I'd like to be the person who had this dream and vision this, because my brain does not go whatsoever in this direction. So optical sorters, and Paul mentioned this, where they kind of read what the plastic is. So you can see these kind of lights here. What they will do is they put a beam down and they read the density of the material. And optical sorters can be used to sort plastic. It can be used to sort glass. It can be used in some instances to sort paper. And you program this thing to say, we want you to look at this specific material and this, part of its paper, and you program it and say, we want it to look at this density, and then it shoots a beam down across the belt, kind of takes a snapshot of everything that's there at that moment in time, it remembers it, and based on its programming, when it gets to the end of the belt, will divert it or push it in a direction onto another conveyor based on how the materials to be sorted. And whoever dreamed this up, I tell you, I'm not nearly that smart. There's no way. This just, it's got, MERS have really cool engineering. Some of least it's just really cool in general. And I agree with Paul.
Tours? Do you give tours at the MERS?
So if you can call any one of, like, for public services, now that we're kind of post-COVID a bit, tours are beginning to resume at these facilities. So you could reach out to, if you want to give us a call, we can help arrange tours at, like, our public services.
You know, it really would be worth your while to go see that sometimes. I'm telling you, some of these machines are so amazing that they can read a plastic or one bit of plastic get diverted one way or diverted another way. It would really be interesting to take a look at.
Of course, I'm a kind of a trash geek. I'm there to call. I think, personally, I think a requirement for graduating from high school, you should see a landfill. Because to see a landfill will humble the pants off you, one.
Yep.
And two, to see this in action will make you have the squeakiest, cleanest recyclables you have ever generated.
Okay, how do we have such like crazy machines like this, but there's no like giant dishwasher thing that can just wash all of the plastics and stuff that don't get washed?
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that, and it's
Good question.
well, and you know what, that's, I'm gonna certain Paul too, that's why I've been in the industry 31 years now. And it's fascinating. It's always evolving, which is a kind of joke. Once you get into solid waste, you just get there. But it's a good thing. So this is how the optical sorter works. Bear with me. See, it's all there's that bar there. There's material can go on this side of it or that side of it. So it's, based on what it's been programmed to do, it's emitting puffs of air to divert the material in a specific manner. This is another fun thing. Does anybody remember, like as a kid, when you would take magnets and try to put them together and then you'd like repel? Well, that's what this thing does. This is called an eddy current, and it has rare earth magnets in it, which creates an opposing field. And so when aluminum crosses its path, it makes it jump in the direction in which the sorter wants to send this aluminum. And so this is the part of the recycling facility. And so you see the just jump. Isn't that amazing? So cool. So very cool. Anyhow, and then what we have here is once those cans have jumped, say jump the shark or whatever that was, the Fonzie making myself. But anyhow, once they've jumped, now what they're doing is, as Paul said, to market these commodities, you want them as pristine and clean as possible. So we've got sorters at the top. They're just making sure that something didn't take a ride on top of that soda can when it went under the eddy current.
Isn't aluminum also one of the highly recyclable materials, aluminum cans?
Aluminum is highly recyclable. We're going to talk a little bit about end markets, which is probably not the greatest thing to talk about based on the bank closures that have happened recently. But what you want to do is you want to think about all of these recyclables are commodities. They're not garbage. They are commodities. And the goal is to make that material all as homogenistic as possible so you can get that and broker that as a commodity. The cleaner, the more value it has. And so one of the things I was taught a long time ago is you don't want to treat your recyclables as trash. You want to treat them as a commodity. It holds its value then all the way down the line to market. So, but it's one of the materials. The metals in general, as well as cardboard, usually the plastics will fluctuate, but those usually hold a fairly good value. So, we're able to like that plastic that people
And your recyclable aluminum can go towards a good cause. And when she's done, I'll talk about it real quickly.
Yeah, there's, we've worked with the aluminum cans for burn children.
ACBC, I'm the executive director for them.
Yeah, and we've got drop offs at.
I just got hired about 2.5 hours ago.
We've got those at most of the fire stations throughout the county.
Yes.
Go visit your fire station.
Right on the side, it's on the end of the building, it's the fire station. It's a big thing, you can't miss it. So all your aluminum cans, please take them there. It's for a good cause. It helps send children that have gone to a horrific accident, been burned, go to their summer camps, whatnot. So every little bit helps. So please send your cans there. You can, please.
And, you know, again, if you're sending glass to Jamie or aluminum cans, you're.
Exactly.
The goal is get them someplace where they can get her sick. And so we back here. So this is the paper line. They're doing some QC there with paper. I don't have a cool little video on that one. This is a shot down into the PET or we don't like to talk about numbers any longer. We like to talk about the shapes of plastics. And the reason we talk about shapes and not numbers is, you know, at one point back in the dark ages when we sorted everything separately, PET or number one was truly just that chemical commodity. And those numbers don't say whether or not it's recyclable. All it tells you is what its chemical makeup is. And so with the invention of trying to lightweight things and whatnot over the years, trying to create better barriers, freshness, now plastics are being mixed. That's why it's so important. If we tell you it's, you know, it's a bottle or a jug, make sure it's a bottle or a jug, because sometimes the plastic industry has mixed things and it's a chemical breakdown to sort plastics. It's not a physical breakdown. Science, you didn't even know. But this is a peek into the PET bumper, and you can see that looks pretty darn clean. And then look at those beautiful bales of paper in the back. So all ready to be shipped to market. And the cleaner the material, the higher, you know, the higher value it holds. Wait, the next one's even further. And this indicates, although maybe a little hard to see, it's color coded. These are the end markets that those 4 material recovery facilities pretty much use. So what's generated in our area is being processed in our area, being sent to an end market, whether that's a paper mill or an aluminum company. You know, for example, you know, we've got cartons of fiber over here. We have Pratt Industries in Wapakoneta. They're a huge paper mill. And the Midwest has become very attractive recently for additions of more paper mills and more plastic too. So gives you an idea where everything travels. There are limits to what we can take curbside. Basically, if you're a rookie or waste management, you know, good or bad, they've got stockholders they need to report to, and they need to know, can it be sorted efficiently, and is there an end market? You don't want anybody to wish cycle. Please don't wish cycle. That ties into that. When in doubt, throw it out. You know, like that shot with the bowling ball and the you know, the lawn chair and whatnot. People say, well, there's metal in there. No, you know, as you saw, that equipment has a tolerance. It's got a tolerance as to how wide, how big, how heavy. Bowling balls, for example, are not something that can be easily recycled. And improper recycling threatens the viability of any recycling program. It can also cause great harm to the folks that are in that facility. So, you know, just for general safety, and Paul said, no hoses. You know, people will say, but it's plastic. No, it's rubber. Please don't recycle hoses. Another bane.
Do you know of any market that takes hoses if it's made of rubber?
No, not really. And that gets into, you know, trying to think about when you purchase things originally. If everybody were to, and which is why Europe is like eons ahead of us. They just have for decades have been very conscious about, because they really have no space for landfills over there, about if I purchase this, what is its life expectancy? What am I gonna do with this thing when it's done, you know? And, you know, for example, shredded paper, you can take that to your paper drop-off bins, but please don't put that in the recycling bins. Again, those paper drop-off bins, you know, the river valley and whatnot, they only deal, they're a single commodity source type of recycling. They're equipped to handle that. It's not like the material recovery facility. You know, if you go to visit one, you'll say, oh, there's these little shreds of stuff, because people will sneak in shredded paper. It's all over the place. Batteries, definitely no. Batteries can cause fire. They can cause fire in the back of the recycling truck, and they can cause fires in the recycling facility. And it takes very little to go up very quickly, and you don't want to put anybody in harm's way with those things. So again, look, empty, clean, and dry, loose Latin cardboard. We try to joke a little bit about flattening cardboard. Don't be a bin hog, you know, flatten that cardboard. It's actually a great stress reliever and lay on boards. And but that way it saves room in your, whether it's your cart or your bin or a drop-off container, saves room for other people to recycle too. And do take this, hang this on the fridge at home. We talked a little bit about different communities recycle different things. Again, go to our webpage. You know, for example, not all communities will accept cartons. Not all communities will accept these kinds of plastic cups or tubs. So our website, we've updated, we keep it updated constantly. We talk to those 4 material recovery facilities annually and ask them, please let us know, you know, what are your end markets? And the reason some of these materials change year to year, by the way, is for just that reason. It may be that they lose, you know, an end processor, and they're not going to collect something that they can't get to market. Talk a little bit about the individual commodities, and I'm trying to look at the time here. So aluminum cans, bottles, and cups. So these aluminum cups are really cool. They're new on the market. Very cool thing. Those can't be recycled. They're a little pricey right now. Of course, I'm so cheap. I buy them, wash them, use them again. But anyhow, so again, you know, you want to empty them, rinse them out. So whether it's, you know, a bottle or an aluminum bottle or aluminum can, those materials can be recycled. We get this question a lot. How about this stuff? No. And the primary reason, as it has been mentioned before, is the food contaminant. As much as, you know, you may bake a pie in that, or your quiche comes in that, whatever, it's really difficult to clean to the nth degree where it's clean enough to recycle. So instead of leaving that up to interpretation, we just say no. And the same with aluminum foil. People be like, oh, it's clean, really? It's like, no. Let's just skip that. You know, it's.
Do you think any metal scrap people who collect scrap, do they take that kind of stuff?
Not unless you had a bunch of it, because it's like, I mean, people do collect, for example, you know, if you're not taking it to the fire department, some people do collect like, and we'll take it to a scrap yard. Aluminum's so light, you need a bunch of volume. They'll take it, but you know, if you pull up a 310, hands, they're probably gonna say, okay. Now, if you have a, you know, spare motor, they'll take that right away. Bimetal and steel cans, and we are in the Rust Belt. We've got places like Cleveland Cliffs that are very active in taking the steel that they use, their off-spec material, they turn right around, they try and source recycled steel into their new products for some circular economy. Again, empty, clean, and dry, tuck the lids inside, and those can definitely go into your recycle bin. To your question, no bike parks, please no cars. We've seen window air conditioners, we've seen lawn mowers, all this stuff. No. So, yeah, unfortunately, all that, can go to scrapyard, we have plenty of those that will pay you money. And anyhow, so, and they're made into then steel, as I mentioned, it's, made into, other items such as new rebar, new cans, car parts. We're still heavy into that kind of industry here in Ohio. Mention again, these are no-nos, especially the propane, please, no. There's plenty of take-back programs for propane. Most every Home Depot or Lowe's has a, blue Rhino take-back. That propane tank under pressure is like a little bomb. Don't want to see that happen in the back of a truck. Glass bottles and jars, Jamie's forte here. To talk a little bit about the glass that does come into a mature recovery facility. You can imagine you toss your beer bottle or wine bottle in your recycle cart. It goes in the back of the truck. It then goes, to the floor. It's very rare that something that whole comes out the other end before it even starts its trip through the recycling facility. Of those 4 processors we mentioned earlier, glass, Waste Management, and Rumpke do actually offsort glass and get it to an end market that either makes it into fiberglass or into food and beverage containers. The other 2 processors, they will use that as, whether it's alternative daily cover or, road base within their facilities, which is allowable by EPA. But yes, if you can actually, that's one of the materials, if you can get it source separated from the beginning, it keeps a higher value. So.
Can I ask you, I just have a couple of pieces, because I know Karen's talked to us about this before. So is that too small? Does size matter?
Just say, let's say.
That's what she said.
Yes, size matters in recycling. No, that's a really great question because, we were talking about, for example, the bowling ball or, some things being too big. Well, there's their tolerance on the other end where things can be too small. Now, in a regular, wait, watch this.
That's a candle.
Yeah, which is very clean, by the way, very good. In your curbside programs, these would not be allowed. Now, in Jamie's program, he could take something more like this. Glass, although it all looks kind of the same, it's based on the temperature in which it was heated in the manufacturing process. And then, if you think about reversing that, then when they go to make new things, that's why in your curbside programs, you're looking primarily for food and beverage glass because, that's been fired at a certain temperature. Size-wise, if you happen to have a big wine bottle like this size would be fine if this were a wine bottle. This is probably the smallest tolerance. We usually tell people, think of your credit card or your debit card and your wallet. That's about as small as you can get for anything that goes into the curbside program because it's too small to collect for processing.
Now, are they taking plate glass anymore? Window glass?
Never at the curbside, never at the curbside. Well, before Jamie switched to strategic, you could take plate glass. Right now, there's just no market for it. But he can take the candle glass. And again, that's something you want to think about when, for example, this is a spice jar, right? So, do you buy it in glass or do you buy it in plastic? That's.
You have to take the top off that.
For the glass, yes, they like to take the top off of this.
Jamie's Place take this?
Yes, Jamie's Place could take that. Well, and they like, again, glass loose in the bins, not bag. But yes, the lids would have to come off. Because Jamie's a sole commodity recycler, it's like Paul. Their tolerances for things are different than the material recovery facilities because they're only dealing with that one commodity. So, but yeah, if you go to our webpage, which is coming up here, we tell you exactly based on who your processor is, how to prepare the materials. This is a good example. There's, in your bin, you can't do the Pyrex or the drinking glasses. This is on my Christmas list. I bought one of those things. Cartons, again, not all communities accept cartons. Those are one of those toughies to rinse and keep dry, but please do that. Caps off. Mixed paper. All of the varieties of things to take. We do ask, please do try and crush that cardboard so there's more room. And there's a variety of cardboard and fiber that can go into any of the curbside programs.
I just want to mention too that, when you recycle these commodities, our tolerance level is 2%.
Wow.
So when I'm shipping out 20-ton loads or 15,000 tons, I'm allowed 2% contaminants. If I don't, they have the right to reject that load. So that goes with anything that comes across the board. So that's why it's so important to preach non-contamination.
Treat it as a commodity. It's
Yes.
really worth something. That happened. I don't know if you remember back like 2018 hearing or something like called the China sword or the fence. That's when, America got very lazy about, we'll just chuck anything in the bin and send it overseas, they'll deal with it. So we had enough of their trash basically. And it's really made us focus back on, quality control, empty, clean and dry. And it's also driven markets back domestically, which I think is a good thing. Again, shredded paper, please take it to, River Valley or Abbott City, the paper retriever folks. Again, they're a single commodity processor, so they can deal with shredded paper. Basically, the material recovery facility, just, like spaghetti everywhere, it's what we said. Cardboard, we said flatten. And it's a new phenomenon since COVID. Lots of cardboard go into homes that like we've never seen before. Again, we've got lots of markets in the area. It goes right back, as Paul said, into paperboard, or depending on what it is to begin with. It's white paper, newspaper, plastic bottles and jugs. Most important thing is if we tell you it's a bottle and jug, stick with the description. Don't look at the numbers. Empty, clean, and dry. It's got a neck, or a skinny top, fat top. It sounds like it should be a song or something. Caps on. And the reason we talk caps on plastics in particular is sometimes it's tough, especially with those, like in a water bottle where it's got those rigid or undulating bottoms. You could try and drain the last drop out of that stuff, and then you turn it back over and you're still liquid. The cap kind of contains some of that. So it doesn't contaminate, make that great fiber or soggy. So, and again, on the bottom, the most important thing, look at the shape. So plastic tubs, some folks in their community will be able to recycle those, some can't. The no-nos are the takeout and deli. Those are not recyclable in any program.
Is that because of possible contamination?
Well, food contamination, and also remember, I mentioned that some of these plastics are coated for, helping keep food, shelf life for longer. Same thing. And the solo cup is probably the biggest confusion. People say, "Oh, look at the number." Don't look at the number. Any solo cup, no. I don't care if it's blue, green, or red. And as is plastic silverware.
So are you saying for deli, even if something comes in it, this is still considered deli, and don't recycle it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's primarily, think dairy. that's probably the best way to differentiate how, think dairy, yeah, yogurt, butter. Sometimes cream cheese, that type of thing. These styrofoam we talked about before. Or the berry container, that's the other thing. Two. No, it's a rigid plastic, it's got, some of them have coatings again. And those blueberries have big one we got from Chile, so, these again, are known in the recycling bin. However, Matthew Ministries does take these. This is that size thing. So this is where we get into, they're just too tiny to be recovered through the mechanisms of the material recovery facility. And you're like, these some for storage for a bunch of stuff. And then plastic bags. A lot of the big box stores, as well as a lot of the grocery chains, do have containers at their facilities to take these back. Again, as a single commodity item, these plastics can actually be recycled. They are horrible bane in a material recovery facility. A plastic bag or a dry cleaning bag gets wound around the conveyor mechanisms, and it can actually cause the sorting to come to a stop because it just jars up the wheels basically. So other things that can be recycled, give us a holler. On the back of the cards that we passed out tonight, we tried to color code, by the way. The yellow indicates that those items can be donated or recycled in some other fashion, not through curbside. For example, we collect holiday lights at our facility year round. And the money that when we broker those to the end user, the money that we give to the zoo for the plants habitat. So pass it on. That's online now, which is a great resource. You can look for specific items, and we try to keep that up to date. Where you can donate clothing or furniture or art materials, that kind of thing. Proper disposal is equally important. These never ever go in a recycling bin and should never ever go in your rubbish either. So these are specialty waste that we help handle. Every community in Cuyahoga County holds Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day at least once a year, and they bring that material to us. We consolidate those volumes and get it to, some of that material is recyclable, a lot of it isn't, and it has to go and be handled in a different manner. Medical waste, for example, those are all, and if you go to our website, if you click on material, remember I said you could sort by city or by material, it'll tell you how that is managed. Landfill, oh, look at those hoses again. Hoses are good for tree guards. If you're staking a new tree and you don't want the metal to hurt it, you got an old hose, it's a perfect thing to thread over the wire. So, you may want to hold on to an old hose just, for those types of purposes, but it cannot go in the recycle bin. Ceramics, styrofoam, those all have to go into the rubbish, unfortunately. What can you do? We talked a little bit about thinking when you purchase to begin with. What is that item that you are purchasing? What is its life cycle going to be? Repurpose if you can, reuse if you can. We even sponsor and plug in one of the programs that we started. It's coming up on a year now. It's called the Fix It Clinic, which is on our website. And so second Saturday of every month, we have many of them at our place in Garfield Heights. You can bring a toaster or something of that manner, and we can try and help you fix it. So reuse it the rest of the way. We're trying to make that change in people's behavior. Composting. We talked about that 40% that most folks in Cuyahoga County are converting between recycling and composting. We do it in their backyard. It helps eliminate greenhouse gases. Karen is plugging for She is an amazing compost teacher. Get enough folks together, she's more than happy, especially our meals, to come out and, teach you how to compost. Compost makes great vitamins for your flower garden, vegetable garden. Here's the website I've been laughing about all night. At the very top left hand of the screen, and you pull us up, there's the what do I do with? And you can search by item. So if you had that garden hose or that ceramic cup, you type that in and it'll tell you, unfortunately, you can't do anything with it, you gotta put it in the rubbish, or if you had that fluorescent light bulb, we could tell you, bring it to us, we can help you deal with that, or Home Depot, that type of thing. You can select your own city, and then it would drive you to, for example, the city of Cleveland's page, which is, it'll tell you all of the materials that Rumpke can manage in that program. You go to Fairview Park, it'll tell you all the materials that Republic Services can manage. And so you can get to it either way. And this is how you can find us. We have Christy on our staff, who is our communications person. Please don't ask me anything about how to do Instagram or Twitter, because I believe my ignorance, but Christy is a whiz at it. And we try and push our education out through all of those modes. And I'll stop talking and field any questions. I've lulled you all to sleep.
May we have your attention, please? The library will be closing in 30 minutes.
Wow.
Computers, copiers, self-checkout, and the cash register will shut down 5 minutes before we close. Thank you.
I really did not plan that. That was great. And so it's right at 8:30. Now the book comes.
Will you
Yes,
tell us your name again, please?
I'm Beth Biggins-Raver. I'm the executive director of the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District. I'm lucky to work with an amazing staff of 6 people. I talked a little bit about Karen. She's our education specialist. Christy is our communication and outreach specialist. We have Karen, who's our education specialist. She does a lot of public and school. We've got Doreen, who is our business specialist. We talked a little bit about if you're a business and you implement a recycling program, how do you right size that garbage contract? Doreen's your gal for coming out to your business, helping you ascertain that, and and help you with that.
Beth, I have a question about like the Amazon mailers. So the plastic, like there's 2 different types up there. I actually brought them to ask a question about it. One of them has like that, the more you know, or whatever, like store drop off, check locally. And I'm never sure if that means like that, Giant Eagle or Target or one of those stores that have the stretchy plastic, if that would take that particular.
If it's, and I don't, are they on the table? Or
Is it the one with the bubble wrap?
One has the bubble wrap, but
Oh,
the
yeah,
other one
yes, I put it in the box.
Oh,
gotcha.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then this one, of course, is the.
And well, so bubble wrap, and this is, how we talk about plastic. These are great examples, by the way. Thank you. Amazon started with cardboard, right? Now they're up to these things. And has anybody gotten the cardboard
Yeah,
that has like the
shredded card.
the shredded cardboard in between the layers? Yeah, they keep working. Unfortunately, this is not thin enough to go in those plastic bags. It's really plastic filled at like the Giant Eagles or the Targets or Kohl's. So this would not qualify. And this is
That can go to.
no, this cannot. This is just unfortunately gonna be garbage. And then this is, if this were just plain old bubble wrap, you could go into that film bag. The fact that it's got, it's bonded to that, that outer tougher. This cannot go either. And that's part of what we're always up against is, Amazon. well, this is friendlier, right? Because, well, gosh, this, it's lighter, it's more cost effective. But in Ohio, this wouldn't qualify, no in the curb and no at the drop off at like, Giant Eagle or Kohl's. So the cardboard one, I don't know, I have mixed emotions about those cardboard, envelopes that they're like paper on the outside and it's that pulpy stuff on the inside. No one has given me that, we've asked about that. My concern is, what's the binder of that floofy stuff in the middle? And we haven't gotten an answer. It makes me itchy. And if it makes me itchy, my response would be toss it, because that 2% contamination, you don't want to risk it. I mean, Paul, unless you know something.
No, I agree. What happened was the Amazons of the world decided that it was a lot less expensive to ship with that. And unfortunately, it's not recyclable like a,
good old cardboard box.
Right.
I had heard that you could put cereal, the cereal bag in the cereal box, that you could put those in.
The cereal bag.
Yeah.
In the plastic film
Yes,
recycling?
I thought that I heard that. No, okay.
Because it had food. Food, again, that was, anything that you can't rinse that bag, really. No one's gonna really rinse that bag, so that is trash.
And those, it's a film, they're looking for film, they're looking for that lightweight, very, it's bubble wrap, or it's your dry cleaning bags, or it's your, you're not getting those high-end plastic bags, hopefully you're taking one, but just in case.
What happens to the plastic bags that Giant Eagle dumps?
They actually, they're kind of like pulp. They've got a baler in the back. And a lot of the larger chains, whether it's grocery stores or Kohl's, so they bring in shipment in a truck. And then they have balers in the back, or they'll have these big cardboard boxes called Gaylords. But with the plastic, they'll actually bale them. They'll make them into a cube like what you saw. And then they'll put them on the empty semi-trailer, ship it back to their distribution center, which is where the incoming material came from. And then they actually broker that material. They'll broker the cardboard, they'll broker, pallets, they'll broker that plastic. It will get recycled. It goes right back in the more plastic bag.
Right. It turns into pellets, and then it turns into parking lots or park furniture.
Yeah, 10
But
minutes.
that material is, I get a lot of questions from
We gotta be out of
clients,
here.
because Heineken.
Make sure it's being.
It is actually-
10 minutes.
It is. It's
And overseas, don't they?
What about the wrapping of fortune cookies or to go plastic utensils?
no, that's kind of a brittle plastic. And again, that could not be recycled.
The, how much recycling a single, let's say, water bottle can go through. So it comes back as something else. At what point can it not be recycled any further and it's still becomes landfill?
You want to take a shot?
Well, I would continue to recycle it as many times. Because I'm telling you, they're taking water bottles and making PET yarn out of it. Okay, making clothing out of it. So, I think that you can recycle it. I've never heard that you can't stop recycling it. So I would my answer would be just keep recycling.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
with plastics in particular, I mean, a lot of your polyester comes from those kinds of plastics, or the carpet that we're walking on, well, a polyester thread in it, which comes from those plastics, but, or the chairs for that matter. But, once it's in that kind of form, it's really not recyclable.
I had been watching on the web, which is like that, and they sort of plastic, and they make cement blocks, like cement blocks, and they use them to build buildings. Why can't we do that?
Because we're lazy.
Well,
Gotta be a market.
there's got to be a market, part of, we talked about how expensive the recycling facilities are to build and to operate. And part of that over there is their landfill costs. are so exorbitant and they have so little of it that to do something like that, even though it's expensive, it's still less expensive than landfill. We haven't quite gotten to that in the United States where landfill costs are just so outrageous that we get creative and do that kind of recycling.
They just get up there and say they walk.
Yeah.
You got 5 minutes to be out of it.
Well, and, you know, we could have another on building materials, you know, building. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much.